Hello again and welcome to TCB4EAP, Echoes of Elvis. I'm your host, Jesse Mallory. Today we dive in deeper into the early Sun Records days and how things began to heat up. But first, let's talk about the other two songs Elvis paid to record at Sun Records. Elvis's second demo session at Sun Studio, January 1954. Songs recorded, I'll Never Stand in Your Way and It Wouldn't Be the Same Without You. Elvis was still an unknown teenager trying to break into music. This second recording was another personal demo session, much like his first one in July 1953 when he recorded My Happiness and That's When Your Heartaches Begin. Some believe Elvis may have hoped someone at Sun would notice his potential. At this point, he was still telling people he didn't sound like nobody, which intrigued Marion Keisker, Sam Phillips's assistant. What happened after this recording? Marion Keisker reportedly made a note about Elvis after this second session, although in my last video I'd said the note was about his first session. Sorry. Though Sam Phillips wasn't particularly impressed at first, Keisker kept pushing the idea that Elvis had something. Eventually, that persistence paid off. Just a few months later, Phillips would call Elvis in to audition, and as you know, the rest is history. Legacy of the second session. While these second demo tracks didn't lead directly to a record deal, they kept Elvis on the radar of Sun staff, showed that Elvis was serious about a career in music, preserved early examples of his voice before fame. These songs were later released on compilations like Elvis at Sun and the Complete Sun Sessions for fans and historians to study his early sound. By this time in Elvis's life, he was dating a girl named Dixie Locke. Dixie spotted Elvis at a church function where she made sure that Elvis overheard her making plans to go roller skating the following Saturday night at the Rainbow Roller Dome. That next Saturday, Elvis makes sure to bump into Dixie talking to her for the first time. He drove her home afterward. They began seeing each other every day for the entire summer. On May 15, 1954, Elvis tries out at the Hi-Hat as vocalist for Eddie Bond's band. He accompanies himself on guitar. They don't hire him, and Eddie, the guy who asked him audition, told him he should go back to driving a truck. Sam Phillips, having seen something in Elvis, paired him with Scotty Moore and Bill Black. Scotty and Bill were in a band called the Starlight Wranglers at the time and played frequently at the Bon Air Club. Elvis went down to the club to hear and meet Scotty. Now, back to Sun Records. After the boys recorded That's All Right, they needed a flip side due to the overwhelming response of their first song. They went with an upbeat version of Blue Moon of Kentucky. At this time, Scotty becomes the manager and booking agent of the band. Sam Phillips takes Elvis to the Bon Air Club on July 17th. The Starlight Wranglers are playing there, and Elvis would get up with just Scotty and Bill to do their versions of That's All Right and Blue Moon of Kentucky. Their performance was not received well and did not sit well with the rest of the Starlight Wranglers, since the crowd was a hard-drinking traditional country and western crowd, and they didn't care for Elvis's look or music. It was decided that night that Scotty and Bill would leave the Starlight Wranglers and now focus on Elvis and the Blue Moon Boys. A smart move. On July 19th, Sun Records releases That's All Right, backed with Blue Moon of Kentucky, Sun 209, the first of 5 singles Elvis will release on the Sun label. The song is a local hit in Mississippi as well as in Arkansas and New Orleans. On July 24th, Elvis and the Blue Moon Boys return to the Bon Air Club to perform. Elvis signs a contract with Sun Records. Sam Phillips then asked Memphis disc jockey Bob Neal to book Elvis on his country music jamboree at the Overton Shell that featured Slim Whitman and Billy Walker as headliners. It would be their first professional public performance as a band. Think about that. They play at a small club with barely a moderate reaction, and then days later, they're on the same bill as Slim Whitman and Billy Walker. This had to excite Elvis, but his nerves must have been crazy. Friday, July 30th, Elvis Presley made his first big public appearance with Scotty and Bill, the Blue Moon Boys, at Memphis's outdoor amphitheater in Overton Park in Memphis. Advertised as a hillbilly hoedown, they listed Elvis's name as Ellis in the advertisements. The show began at 8 o'clock and they started with Elvis, Scotty, and Bill performing That's All Right Mama. Elvis was so nervous he stood up on the balls of his feet and shook his leg in time with the music, a move he sometimes used in the studio. To his shock and surprise, the young girls in the audience went crazy, yelling and applauding. Scotty said, "We didn't know what was going on when all those people started screaming and hollering." Next they did Blue Moon of Kentucky, and when Elvis got off stage, he asked why people were yelling at him. Someone told him it was because he was shaking his leg, which with the baggy pleated pants created a wild gyrating effect in time with the music. It didn't hurt that Elvis was a good-looking boy. They told him to go out there and do it again. Later in the show they returned and did the same 2 numbers along with I'll Never Let You Go, Little Darlin', a new song they had been working on. This must have felt amazing for Elvis, who was not very popular in school, had always been a bit shy, and had recently been told by another musician to keep driving a truck. Imagine what was going through his head in that moment, and in the days after their performance. He just performed for hundreds of people and went back for an encore. Thanks for joining me on this journey through Elvis's early steps into the spotlight. If you enjoyed today's episode, subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a fellow Elvis fan. Until next time, I'm your host, Jessie Mallory, and as always, keep taking care of business.